Hey, third graders. Time for the rest of our Bible story about the resurrection. When we left, we know that the guards had awakened and were shocked to find that Jesus was gone, and they ran back to tell those that were in charge that they didn't know what had happened to Jesus, and they said, "Oh, just lie and tell them that somebody stole the body." Now, around the same time, early in the morning, Mary, the mother of Jesus, Mary Magdalene, and some other ladies that loved Jesus very much decided they were going to come back to the tomb and anoint his body again. And they were worried, as I said in the last lesson, thinking, who's going to roll the stone away? It's so heavy. We didn't think about that, but they were walking on anyway. And when they got to the tomb, they were amazed that huge heavy stone was rolled away. And there was an angel sitting on top of the huge stone at the tomb. And this was your memory verse that you had for a test last week. So I'm going to read this to you, what the angel said to them. And if you remember it, hopefully you do, then you can say it along with me, okay? It's Matthew 28, verse 5. And the angel answered and said unto the women, "Fear not ye, for I know that ye seek Jesus, which was crucified. He is not here, for he is risen, as he said. Come, see the place where the Lord lay. And go quickly and tell his disciples that he is risen from the dead. And behold, he goeth before you into Galilee. There shall ye see him. Lo, I have told you." Verse 8, and they departed quickly from the sepulchre with fear and great joy, and did run to bring his disciples word. So as soon as the angel said to them, "Come and see," and they peeked in, and then he said, "Now go and tell." And so they ran as quickly as they could back to Jerusalem to tell them that Jesus had risen from the dead. It was a miracle. And so the disciples probably weren't really believing them. They're saying, "Oh, you're just tired. You're just grieving. It's okay. It's okay." They said, "No, you have to come and see. It's really happened." And so they began running to the tomb. Now, Peter, of course, and John were in this group. John was younger, and so he could run a little faster. So he actually, the Bible tells us, he ran past Peter ahead of him, just left him in the dust, and he runs all the way to the tomb. Peter was close behind him, so when he got there, he stopped. John stopped outside the tomb. Peter kept going. He ran straight into the tomb, and he never hesitated about things. He just did it. Like when he cut off Malchus's ear, he just didn't think about things. So he ran in there, and then John followed him in. And then they saw the grave clothes laying there, the napkin folded neatly. It was Jewish tradition when you were eating. I think this is the neatest thing that Jesus did this for us. But it was Jewish tradition when you were eating that if you had to leave the table and you were returning, you would fold your napkin neatly so the servants would know not to take your plate. If you were finished and done and you were not coming back, you would just kind of throw your napkin on the plate or on the seat or whatever, not in any way, just kind of toss it down because you were done and you would not be returning. The napkin that we talked about earlier in the lesson that covered Jesus' face was folded neatly. So what does that tell us? It told the disciples, it told everyone, including us, that he is coming again. He was coming back and that it was not over. He was alive and he was returning. And so they were overjoyed to find that he was alive. And they ran back into the city to tell as many people as they could. Now, Mary Magdalene, later in the day, she went back to the garden tomb alone. The Lord had done great things in her life. She was a wicked woman, and she had a very bad past, but God had changed all of that and completely changed her life. And she loved him dearly and was a true follower of Jesus. And she was weeping because she didn't understand if he had risen from the dead, where was he? She wanted to see him and she didn't know where he was. So when she peeked into the tomb, she saw two angels in there. One was at where Jesus' head would have been, and the other angel was where Jesus' feet were. And they were sitting there, and they said, "He is not here, he is risen." And she said, but where is he? And then she heard somebody behind her. So she turned around. In her grief and her crying, she did not recognize that it was actually Jesus himself. She thought it was the gardener. And Jesus said to her, whom seek ye? And she said, I seek Jesus of Nazareth, who was buried here. And now they said he's risen from the dead. And have you seen him? Do you know where they put him? She was doubting. Like, did he rise from the dead? Did someone steal his body? She just wasn't sure. And then he said her name. He said Mary. And then her eyes were open and she realized that it was Jesus. And she fell down on her face and she worshiped him, that her risen Savior. He had died and risen from the dead, just as he said he would. And that is such a victory for Christians. Many people in other countries, they worship gods that aren't alive. They're false gods, or they worship men who have died. But our God, the one that we serve and worship, is the one true God, and he is not dead. He has power over death and hell and the grave. And that is who we place our trust in and our faith in. And that is a blessing to know that Jesus died for us so that we don't have to die eternally. Now, we will die physically, won't we, one day? But our soul will not die. It will live forever in heaven with Jesus Christ if we have trusted him as our personal Savior. And that is a blessing. I hope that encourages your heart today. And we will talk a little bit more about Jesus and his 40 days on earth before he ascended back into heaven, okay? That will be our next lesson, though. Have a great day. Bye, guys.